More ancient history jewelry stories. It's Deep Dive Wednesday, and we are continuing our series on the ancient ruins at Nimrud, specifically the Queen's Tombs. This is part 3. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, please go back and watch them. If you're having a hard time finding older videos on my profile, I have uploaded everything to my YouTube channel, where it's much easier to search by title. It's under the same username as here. Last week we talked a little bit about the contents of the Queen's tombs and why there was so much jewelry buried with them. And just a minor correction, I said that the bodies of Banitu, Yaba, and Atalia were found in tomb number 2. That is not the case. The coffin in the tomb contained the bodies of who we assume are Yaba and Atalia, but the body of Banitu has not been located or identified. The coffin did contain a golden bowl and other items inscribed with Banitu's name. Last week I mentioned that the reason why these queens were buried with so much jewelry had something to do with the goddess Ishtar. Ishtar, also known as Inanna, was an ancient Mesopotamian goddess. She was rather multifaceted and complicated. She was the goddess of love and sex, goddess of war, and she was also Venus, the morning star. If some of that sounds familiar to you, it's because the ancient Greeks took the first and last attributes, the goddess of love and sex, and the embodiment of Venus, and incorporated it into their goddess Aphrodite, who the Romans later called Venus. There's a myth concerning Ishtar's descent into the underworld. She has to make her way past several gatekeepers. It begins with her demanding to be let into the underworld, threatening to raise an army of the dead to come back and eat the living. After this, she has to make her way through 7 portals, removing an item of jewelry or clothing through each doorway. By the time she makes it through all 7 portals, she has lost all of her queenly regalia and is naked, and therefore has no power, and is immediately murdered by her sister. This is likely why the queen's tombs are chock full of jewelry to use as bribes for the gatekeepers and judges of the underworld. This myth of Ishtar's descent forms part of the basis for the paranoia the ancient Assyrians had about tomb robbing. They believed that items removed from a tomb would have reduced social status and privilege for the person in the afterlife. This echoes the myth where Ishtar is robbed of all of her queenly power when her jewelry and regalia are taken from her. This still doesn't answer the compelling question of who these queens were. Next week I want to talk about what we do know about Yaba, Atalia, Banitu, and Hama, what their relationship might have been to each other, and one of the most famous things found in the queen's tombs, the curse on Yaba's coffin.